Call this meeting to order. Joplin School Board of Education, regular session December 13th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Derek Gander.
Present.
Donnie Greenlee.
Present.
David Weaver.
Present.
John Hurd.
Present.
Riley Hartwell.
Here.
Jeff Pope.
Present.
Thank you.
If you'd all please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Would entertain.
So moved.
Thank you, Derek.
Second?
Second, thank you, David. Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Please vote.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Motion passes. Okay, here we are. We'll start off with the President's report. I've got some celebrations. First up, the Pale Pink Dragon, a JHS drama. Students concluded semester one children's theater production, Pale Pink Dragon. The story follows Princess Pinky's disappearance and feared encounter with a dragon that leads to a rescue mission. The 18 cast members were directed by students Max Miller and Leah Sherrod. The Pale Pink Dragon was greatly enjoyed by more than 2,000 elementary and pre-K students. Watch for upcoming JHS Free Musical Theater, The Little Shop of Horrors, April 20th through the 22nd. Sounds like the theme of Super Mario. Okay, next up, Spotlight on Success. DESE gave a nice nod to Joplin School's parents as teachers and the DESE Office's Childhood newsletter. This month's Spotlight is on community leaders from Region 23. These community leaders participated in Joplin's Nyla Reed's second annual Literacy Liftoff. Joplin School's parents as teachers, parent education program recruited 13 new families during this event. Great job. Next one up, I recognize this guy. Joplin High School junior Aiden Cope earned a perfect score of 36 on his ACT, placing him in the elite top 0.3% of ACT students.
Congratulations.
Congrats. You worked hard for that. And then next up, we've got Dover Hill Elementary School, December 10th, 75 Joplin Schools Buildings and Grounds employees gave up their Saturday morning to move into the new Dover Elementary. The team started loading boxes at Dover K2 and Dover K3 through 5 at 7 a.m. and by 11, the last box was unloaded and delivered to its new home. The move was a great team effort. Special thanks to Dave Pettit for setting up the logistics and the rest of the team for an effective and efficient move into the new Dover Hill Elementary School. And then finally, Christmas of Hope 2022. The students and staff at Franklin Technology Center recently presented a check for $6,250 to Christmas of Hope, a program that helps provide Christmas presents for local children in foster care. FTC students and Mr. Lauren Curtis organized the district-wide fundraiser each year. So congratulations for their support of that great program. Okay, next up, we'll go to Superintendent's Day report.
Okay, we're going to have a report on our audit for the 21-22 school year. And we have Tommy Stoner on here. That's gonna work.
Mandy.
Mandy? Oh,
Mandy.
I'm sorry, Mandy.
Hello, can you all hear me okay?
Got it, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for having me tonight. I'm Mandy Coolin, and I'm one of the, I'm a partner with Westbrook & Company and one of the district's auditors, and I have my admin set this up for me, so I need to fix it. It always comes across as Tommy Stoner, so sorry for the confusion there. But I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you've all had a chance to glance through the audit, but just feel free to follow along on my presentation, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. So let me just get this pulled up here. Okay.
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. Starting out is our audit opinion. So here's where we state that the financial statements were presented fairly It's an unmodified or a clean audit opinion. So the financial statements were in good standing when we came into audit. So that's always the best place to start. Here we have the district statement of activities. So here to the far left, we can see expenditures broken down by function. So you'll see total expenditures at the bottom of about 145.26 million. Now then to the right of those expenditures are going to be any program revenues that come in to offset those expenses. So this is going to be any charges for services, any operating or capital grants or contributions that may have come in. And then to the far right, we'll see a net expense column of, at the bottom, you can see net expenses of about 116 million. Just know that then those expenditures are covered by the district's general revenues. So your property taxes, basic formula, sales tax, those other general revenues which are not presented on this slide. Now we red box the two areas of food service and community service because those are the two areas where a district could break even. We don't always see that, but you'll see that for the year ended June 30th of 2022, food service was in the positive about $346,000. This is the district's balance sheet as of June 30th of 2022. So the top portion of this shows us cash balances broken down by fund. So we can see to the far right, we have total cash balances of about 92.5 million. Below that, we'll see payroll liabilities as of year end of about 1.5 million, which brings us to the bottom. Our total fund balances is the net of those two of about 91 million as of the end of the year. Now in your footnotes, there's a detailed schedule where you can find a little more information about what makes up those various fund balances. And this shows us that in the general fund, there was close to 900,000 that was restricted for student scholarships. Down towards the bottom of this slide here, you can see that there were some funds that were assigned for student activities and food service. And then that left about 40.2 million in the general fund to cover the district's general operating expenditures. Now we go over to the debt service fund. Any monies in that fund are of course restricted to service the district's debt. And so we have about 20 million there. And then in the capital projects fund, this shows us that as of year end, we had about 6.7 million left of unspent bond proceeds. And then there were some other capital outlay and tech projects that were committed, which were for projects that have been approved before year end, but maybe not completed or paid for until after year end. And then any other balance in the capital projects fund is just going to be assigned for future capital outlay. This is the district statement of revenue, expenditures, and change in fund balances. So this kind of shows us the big picture overall for the year. We can see total revenues at the top broken down by fund for total revenues of close to 110 million. Below that, we have expenditures broken down by fund and by function for total expenditures of about 145 million. Now in the debt service fund and capital projects fund, we'll see some large expenditures for debt service as the district had its bond refunding during the year, and also some large capital outlay expenditures as we continued on the projects for Dover Hill and County Norman. So the third line from the bottom here, we've boxed in red. This shows you your net change in fund balances for the year. So overall fund balances decreased about 18.6 million, largely due to the debt service and capital projects fund balances for those issues that we just discussed. In the footnotes, I'm just going to kind of skip through these, but just know in the footnotes you can find information about the district's long-term debt. So you can see payments that were made and future payments on bonds over the next few years. Now we'd like to show a couple of graphs in your audit report. This shows us total revenues broken down by source. So the top portion of this shows us 2022 revenues compared to the prior 4 years. And we can see that overall revenues increased about 10 million from 2021. This was largely due to federal revenues. They increased about 5 million, and we expected to see an increase in federal revenues as the district has had an influx of federal funds related to the CARES and ESSER funds. Local revenues also increased. A large portion of that was the premium that the district received on the bond refunding. So the bottom part of this just shows us that in total, what percentage your revenues were by source compared to previous years. So here's where we'll see that jump in federal revenues. This is the same sort of information, only for expenditures. About midway through the slide here, we can see our total expenditures of about $145.2 million. That was an increase from 2021 expenditures of $87.8 million. And again, those large increases were largely in capital outlay, as we can see here, and debt service payments. Then we like to show a couple of trends. So the top graph here shows district reserves, and we can see that they've trended up over the past 5 years, ending the year with reserves at about 54%. The bottom chart here shows us average daily attendance. We can see that average daily attendance was just over 7,000 for the year end, an increase of about 300 or so from the prior year. And we expected to see this increase. 2021 was just such an odd year for attendance reporting because there were so many different methods of attendance and stipulations on how that had to be tracked and reported that we've seen increases across the board just for that reason. And then in our audit, we look at compliance with state statutes, specifically over purchasing, budget, attendance, and transportation. And I'm pleased to report that there were no instances of non-compliance over laws that were reported in the audit. If you were to look at our report on internal controls, you'll see that we don't provide an opinion on internal controls, but we do look at the district's internal controls and help use those to help us determine our audit procedures and various risk areas in the audit. We didn't report any instances of non-compliance over internal controls during the audit. We also audited, as far as the federal program audit, we looked at food service and the Education Stabilization Fund this year, otherwise known as the ESSER funds. Those were the major programs that we audited, and we also did not report any instances of non-compliance over those programs or any internal control deficiencies over the federal programs. And this slide here is a summary of that information that we just discussed. I just like to point out at the bottom, it says, does the auditee qualify as a low-risk auditee? And it's marked to no. I always like to point that out, that that's nothing to be alarmed about. What that means is the district reports its financial statements on the cash basis reporting. And that's the case with most all of our school districts that we audit and in Missouri. But what happens is the uniform guidance says if an organization has cash basis financials, they can't be considered low risk. And all that means is that a higher percentage of your federal program expenditures have to be audited. So we have to audit 40%. So that's kind of what that means. But at a glance, when people see, oh, why aren't we low risk? I always just like to point that out, that that's very common, and it just means that we have to audit more federal expenditures. And then the last slide here is our required communications letter. So here's where we would report any best practices or general recommendations or other things we may have seen throughout the audit. Just a couple of comments. When we were auditing vocational cash receipts and looking at revenues that the Career Center receives, we noticed that they track their revenues using QuickBooks and RevTrack. And there's a lot of different revenue streams that are coming into the Career Center. And so reconciling at year end is pretty labor intensive. And so we would just recommend that there are some procedures that you put in place monthly to reconcile the revenues that the Career Center has in their system to the district's general ledger. And I think those procedures have already been implemented, but I think that would make a smooth process going forward if the revenue and expenditures are looked at monthly and there's a reconciliation back and forth between those two platforms. And then the last comment here was regarding summer food service expenditures. We found that those were coded to a community service function code versus a food service function code. And so we had to make a correcting entry, but I just want to point out that in most of our audits this year, this comment is in there because DESE had changed the guidance. There was a lot of back and forth about where this should be coded, and it got changed kind of late in the game. And so we have this entry and this comment that basically just says we made this change, and it's fine now and it's been corrected. But we've had that at, I would say, most of our school districts this year because of the coding change. So that concludes my presentation. We didn't have any other, audit comments or anything, but do you guys have any questions for me on that?
That's good news.
Definitely good news. We appreciate the information and the thorough details of the review. And again, another thing audit, that's good to hear. And we appreciate you spending time with us tonight to review it. And we've got copies here as well, and we'll sign a certified copy for you.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much for having me. And I just want to thank Shelley, getting my names mixed up here, Shelley and Sarah, Dr. Saketa, and the whole team there. We just really appreciate the relationship, and we appreciate central office's help on the audit and getting everything turned around and out the door. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Hope you all have a good holiday.
You as well.
Bye.
And many thanks to Shelley, Sarah, and her team for putting that together. The finance office, it's a heavy lift, so we appreciate your work. Okay, next we have construction update. Maybe one of the last few construction updates.
Probably so. Get this short and sweet. We did it. Yeah. Noteworthy items. The C of O, certificate of occupancy, will be obtained Thursday this week. Turnover, Friday this week. School takes possession starting Monday of next week, the 19th.
Wow.
So if anything happens between
Friday
Friday and
we're not
Monday, that's on
100%, we're not 100% complete. We are substantially complete. What's that mean? What that means is you can take possession, you can do what you want to do with the building, it's yours. We're still gonna be in there working with punch list items, painting here and there. I would say we're probably 98% complete.
we're gonna sneak peek of our staff on Friday, so. If you have to come in early and finish up before that, that's okay.
Everything works, it's ready to go.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Any questions for me? This is probably our last update.
What do we end up with in the construction contingency?
About 200,000 left
To the good.
to the good, so we'll be giving that back to the district.
But that's just construction.
That's
That's
just
not
construction.
counting number.
Definitely under budget.
So
And
that rock was a big question mark. So in the end, it proved not to be as bad as it could have been.
that's right.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate the update.
Building looks great.
Thank you.
Phenomenal building.
If you haven't seen it yet, I implore you to do so. It's an amazing building.
You get the lights up at night.
You can't miss it from around the corner. It's lit up.
Most, for me, coming over the viaduct, and seeing the eagle on that side, it just,
That's good to see.
it pops at night especially.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Fantastic.
A great move to add that.
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron.
Aaron, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Appreciate it.
Happy New Year, guys.
Okay, Dr. Dickey has an introduction.
Well, I really have not much to say about their report, but we'll just turn it over to the Dr. Gilbreth show, and he's going to come talk to us about graduation rate.
So as we know, each month we talk about how we're addressing our comprehensive school improvement plan. And one of the biggies is graduation rate. And that's always been something for us to focus on here at Joplin for a long time. And Steve's brought his team with you so that you can kind of see the robust plan they put together and how it's made a difference within the last school year, specifically with some of the new things they've put in place.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. We have brought just a small piece of our VSIP, and that is the graduation piece, which includes a lot of those academic interventions and the new things that we've implemented over the last couple of years at Joplin High School. A couple things that I'm particularly proud of that that we've done is this intervention piece, the academic intervention piece, and following closely where kids are daily. And that means attendance and grade wise. And with the addition of Miss Lundeen, she's been able to really grab the help of the freshmen and sophomore principals and kind of get kids off on the right foot in terms of staying academically successful. And if not, we're all over them, or at least they're all over them. So do a very good job with that. And then talking about the graduation rate, and it's complicated, and we can talk a little bit more about that as we kind of move through this, but I promised everybody that we'll go through this quickly, and I'll keep my time short because my 2 minutes is sometimes longer than Sarah Mwangi's 2 minutes.
I felt that.
So anyway,
She's not going to defend herself.
she can take me.
She just worked out. Her ears were burning.
Okay, so anyway, we'll start off with, talk about our graduation and did quite well. And Ms. Dorton, our senior principal, has a few slides that she'd like to share with that.
Okay, so four-year graduation rate, this is over the past 5 years. You can see we've kind of fluctuated, but just looking there in the past couple of years, we're moving in the right direction. If you look at the previous year compared to last year, that's a big jump for us. And it's just nice to be moving in the right direction. We have a lot of support and systems in place to help with that. So that forward progress is what we're going to continue working towards. Here just kind of compares, so we've got our 21-22 current graduation rate from last year. And then when we move into the year before, just that forward progress, we don't stop at 4 years. So we've got our 5, 6, and 7-year graduates continually funneling through. We're continually supporting them through our alternative programs. So just looking at that 2020-21 graduation, initially their 4-year was that 75.3. And so their 6-year turned out to be 79.5. So it's a nice jump for them as well. And then into the next year, they had a nice boost for that 3% for that 6-year graduation rate. So just to kind of show that we're continually working with those kids. We don't just give up on them at 4 years when they didn't quite get there. We continue pushing them through. Just a quick outlook on where we're currently at. We already have for this year's class, and we have 552 seniors this year. We've already got 7 of them completed with the Missouri Option Program. My last numbers anyway, showing you the different numbers. And then early graduates were estimated to have 45 early graduates from high school. So good things are happening there. So just to kind of look at all the support and programs in place at the high school, there's a lot of different options for a lot of different walks of life. So we have added that assistant principal position that works mainly with academic and attendance interventions, which has been a tremendous help to us at the high school. We have our attendance officer to focus on those truancies and tardies within the building. And then we also work with the juvenile office. So there's 2 things there. The juvenile office, we have liaisons that come and help and support our kids, as well as the achievement court. Kind of focuses on those kids with truancies, sometimes drug issues and things like that, but just an extra support system for our kids that maybe we can't provide them in-house. So that's nice that's Jasper County Juvenile Office that works with us on that. We've added a SIT team, which they will talk to you about. We have a tutoring homework center, which sometimes kids get required to go to those things to make up stuff. Our Fusion program works hand in hand, mentoring those freshman students as they come into the building and supporting them as they start their high school journey. We have the JAG program, transitions, our credit recovery, and then kind of get into our alternative school program. So lots of things in place to help our kids at Joplin High School.
All right, here we have some data on our current students. And that top line, the 12th grade in green, is this year's seniors. On the right is this year. The middle is their sophomore year. Or, yeah. And on the left is their ninth grade year. And you kind of see the ninth grade year, of the credits they attempted, so 3,880 classes attempted, they passed 93.76% of them. We took a drop their 10th grade year, and then 11th grade year, we saw an improvement, 92.8. And below that is this year's juniors, the data for their 9th and 10th grade year in the middle and the right. And the bottom line is this year's 10th graders for their freshman year. So they completed 88.43% of their credits. Next slide, we have attendance comparison, which actually shows quite a bit of improvement. The blue on the left is this year. The yellow is last school year. And you see that as of now, we had 101 students with 100% attendance. So 4.36% of our students. Last year, we only had 70. But you see it goes down 99%, 98% attendance, 95 to 98, 90 to 95. 1,393 students, or 60%, 60.09% of our kids are at school 90% of the time, which is a 13% increase from last year, which is pretty good.
Okay, so a little bit of data, student intervention. These are just some things that I compile and try to share with, like when our superintendent comes through and wants to see the communication that's going on. Last year on the right side, getting into this new position, we're still learning what I can do and how I can help and how to work with these guys to better prepare our kids, keep them in class and get them to school. So face-to-face was just communication with me and sitting down with kids and talking to them. And mostly I focused on 9th and 10th graders at the time. This year, we're really focusing 9, 10, 11. I try to help with some 12th grade, but that shows you just some of the parent contact and dialers. And I think that many of you probably have received a dialer or some communication from parents. That goes off a Power School update of if they have a failing grade or if they're missing so much attendance. I try to send dialers out to parents, and granted, it does change in a 24-hour period, but somewhere it has occurred, so I want them to know. So the dialers work well. Letters to parents. On the left side, you can see this is this year so far in our contact that we've had with kids. And that will continue to grow. And the face-to-face, those are things that I've just documented. Things happen in the hall all the time that may not get documented. I was preparing this graph and 4 kids stopped by and, hey, can you check my grades? Things like that. And that's the communication we want from kids, and to know to come to the office and I can show you where you're at and what percentage you have and where you're sitting with your attendance and things. So they're getting used to knowing that I'm not the bad guy. I'm there to help them. I just keep track of them. The next slide gives you a little overview of right now of where we're sitting for semester 1. I've been trying to track every week. I give a report to all of our principals of where we are, how many passing grades, the A through D's, and then how many failing grades we have, and the number of students that have those failing grades, because several have multiple Fs. So we try to focus on them, and I have a running document, a list of every week of those kids, and we try to communicate. And then that's the percentage of students. So granted, yes, September, it's a bombshell because it's like, oh my gosh, I have to turn things in. But that number is slowly going down. The next screen will show you. So I got to thinking about us doing comparisons and competition. And so this is a large document that's on the wall that we started in November. And the kids now are seeing, in matter of fact, before I came over here at 3:00, there were 4 seniors that stopped and were talking about their senior class and how their number of students had dropped already. And they're like, where are these kids, where are they going? And this and that. And then where their percentages are about how they're passing and failing. And so it's starting to open up communication amongst the students, which is great. It's a visual for them to see where they're sitting, and some of them kind of giggle and chuckle when they go by, and others are like, that's not right, we've got to improve it. So this is a visual for them that's on the wall there in the hallway. Anyway, okay, so the last thing there is, these are some of the things that we do to help with the strategies for intervention. And like I said, a lot of the dialers, Dropout Detective, we keep notes in and talk to kids. That's part of Canvas and their grade reports. Letters to parents, as said, and the homework center and tutoring, which we're going to try to ramp that up again this spring with some more incentives to go to tutoring, and the one-on-one staff and student conversations. And then our SIT team was new this year, and I'm going to let Ed talk a little bit about that, and then Flex and MOOPs.
All right, good evening. So our SIT team is a new intervention that was introduced this semester. It's made up of 11 to 12 professionals in the building that we come in and we focus on how we can improve student achievement. I quickly did some math. We meet about every 2 weeks for about 2.5 hours. And over that time, since that beginning, our first meeting in September, we've accumulated over 2,000 hours where we focus on student interventions. Those professionals that come into the SIT team, we focus on ways to help students get those grades up. It's more mentoring and helping to highlight some resources that are available to them, if it's tutoring or homework lab or night school, things like that, or even if we need to steer them to the hard, look at maybe Flex is a better option for you and things like that. So we talk to them more as a mentor than as a discipline thing. So we're trying to help them see that they can improve their academics even when adults are trying to help them. Our initial focus was on the 11th and 12th grade because we wanted to look at those credits earned and the credits that they needed to graduate. So those numbers down at the bottom, the seniors, the juniors, and the sophomores were our first initial focus, with the freshmen coming on board next semester because we wanted to see how their first semester went. And now we can start to look at them right out the gate, their spring semester, their second semester in high school. How can we improve them and maybe get ahead of that curve of you're so far behind now as a junior or senior. So that's kind of our focus as a SIT team.
Looking at some additional options for students, we really focus on students who are falling behind on credit and not on track for graduation. And so as a junior principal, I started looking at the beginning of this year, anybody that had 10 credits or less to start the year, looking at moving them possibly to Flex. And we work in partnership with Ms. Tarter in identifying those students, what those needs are, and if we can move them over to Flex. Some obstacles that we face on Flex is transportation is a big issue. Those students have to be typically 17 years and older. And so those kind of give us sometimes some obstacles in not being able to move them to Flex and make that progress toward graduation. And so I'm gonna let Ms. Tarter talk about, those requirements for Flex and what we do.
So for Flex, Flex is students with us for 3 hours a day. So we have a session in the morning from 8:30 to 11:30, and then we have a session in the afternoon from noon until 3 p.m. So the students have to attend one of those sessions. They have to maintain an attendance of 95% or less. If they drop below the 95%, then we give them the option to come in and make up their time because we want them to be there and to make that 95% attendance. Their job, they have to have a job for this program as well. So their job is their actual 3 hours in the building a day makes them a full-time student. So for their job, every 60 hours that they work, it is converted into an elective course or credit for them. So that's how we can make sure that the students are getting caught up with their credits and able to get caught up quickly and make sure that they can hopefully graduate on time. So if we have students that are with us that junior year and continue with us the senior year, which is our hopes that they do so, at the beginning of the senior year, we also have that program called Missouri Options, which used to be, the old GED program. So we're looking at the high set test for them. It's not a placement program, so we can't tell a student if they're going to be in low options. They are tested to be in that program. If they score anywhere toward the end of their 10th grade year, 11th, 12th grade year at that level, then they can be offered the Missouri Options program. If they don't meet that, they continue to flex with us. But the Missouri Options program, we are looking to make sure that they're able to pass those high set tests. So our teachers are working with those students, working through booklets and making sure that they have all the skills and standards met in order for them to be able to graduate on time, if not early. As you can see, we've had several kids already graduate this year, which is amazing.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just one question I have is, you're doing all the right things here. I mean, I can't look at a single thing that said, hey, it's like you're missing something. I think it's all there. But I'm surprised that you still have 40% of the students that are having attendance less than 90%. I mean, it's got to be frustrating for each of you. It's like you can't teach if they're not there.
Yeah.
So how do you get that up? Because there's got to be a direct correlation with that. I mean, you can't go pick them up and drive them to school. I get that, but what are other things that you could do to maybe help with that group to get them into the school and they have the ability to learn?
Yeah. And that's something that we've talked about, like forming some kind of a task force to think about what are the options that we can, because we send out dialers, we make phone calls, we do home visits. We are chasing kids around the building. Now, let me say this first of all. 80, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but 89, 90% of the kids come to school every day and do the exact right thing. But the attendance is a different thing. They obviously have to be there in order to be successful. That is something that I think it's gotten to the point where it's become increasingly more difficult to chase them down and to get them to class. But we really are, we're looking at that piece of, what are the options? How we've reached out to parents. We make home visits. We're looking at what are some things that we can do. And that's something that we've presented to our liaison group of our, I don't want to say sit team, but our steering committee, not steering committee, our parent council, site council. It's like in the business world, what are some ideas? What are some things that, because we're really, it is something that, it's a thing.
It's a direct correlation, I would think.
It is. And, I think part of it, it's sort of those things that are tangible and things that are intangible, things that you can kind of wrap your brain around, like, why is this happening? Where it's complicated in many ways. But one thing that we've really focused on hard this year, and that we talked about when we did our student grade level meetings, it's that notion of, look, you're a part of many communities. You're a part of the community of Joplin High School. You're a part of the community of the 9th grade class, of maybe your church, or maybe whatever organization you are. But when you're here, when you're at Joplin High School, the things you do not only matter for you, but it's also the community of Joplin High School. And it's, and before our kids sat down to take the government EOC, which they did this week, this past week, I told all the teachers, I want to come into your class and talk to them before they put pencil to paper or open their computer. And that is talking to them about the notion of, it's sort of like, look, we depend on you guys to do your very best. And many kids will tell you that over the years, they'll take a test and this idea in their brain is like, this may or may not matter to them. It may not be of importance because they don't see what do I get out of this? I don't get anything out of this. But the thing they do get out of this is that being a part of the community of Joplin High School and Joplin Schools means that we try to partner with you guys. And we give you what we can when it's available. And what we ask from you is to give it everything you got. Come to school every day and give it everything you got. We talk about that in the grade level meetings. We talk about that frequently with kids in the hall. And like I said before, those tests, and sometimes kids will look at you like, yeah, whatever. But the truth of the matter is this, there are many, many kids that will come to us and they'll say, hey, you know what, that does make sense. And we, so if you guys have great ideas
Yes.
or know
We'll
great
take
ideas, please help us. We,
So, with the students that are not in, they're out for attendance, what have you found is the biggest reason? Is it work? Is it transportation? Is it support at home? Is it?
it's a plethora of
There's
reasons.
no one big area to tackle.
It's a plethora of reasons why kids don't come and just, I don't know.
We ought to be curious to see is that for that 40% that's below 90% attendance, how many of them are not involved in other extracurriculars at the school?
Absolutely.
Because when you speak of community at the school, part of that stickiness is that they're involved in something.
Yes,
Whether it's
absolutely.
sports or like the jam band last
Yep.
Friday or whatever it is. How many of them are not involved? Because that would seem like that'd be an early warning, like, look, if the person's not involved, they might feel like they're out on an island, therefore their desire to show up might diminish. And it kind of feeds on itself, I would think.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think there's probably data there that could help with that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the district's strategic goals, is that highly engaging academic and extracurriculars. And as we've gone around doing the superintendent's forum, we've asked the kids, like, do you feel like there's enough activities? And the students that were in there shared, there's something for everyone if you want to do it. And I think that's something that these guys excel at, is offering a wide variety of opportunities. And there's lots of clubs, lots of activities for the kids if they want to be in them.
The want.
A question that I have, and Carrie, you may be able to share more on this. What's the highest graduation rate Joplin Schools has ever achieved?
In the last 20 years, based on the way that they're calculating now, which is on time, whether it be 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, or 7. I don't know that we had the 6 or the 7 year rate. I think maybe you had in the last 2 or 3 years an 86 or 7, 87.9 in there. I think 2 or 3 times over the last 10 years, at either the 6 or 7 year rate, we had around an 87.9 or almost 88% on that rate. So everybody reports out the 4-year rate because everybody wants to know who's there on time. But that's extremely important because we want to get as many of the finish line on time as possible. But the 87% is equally important to us because they did graduate. So it may have taken them a few kids, 20 or 30 kids, 2 years longer. That's okay. They still graduated. So that figure is important to us.
And for perspective, what was the graduation when you arrived in Joplin High School?
It was a different calculation, and it was in the low 70s. And I think if we would have figured it at this rate, it would have been probably in the high 60s. But it was around 72%, and that was a more forgiving calculation at that time. But using this calculation, it probably would have been 65 to 67%.
Yeah. I will say that the other thing too, when you look at kids that for whatever reason they don't, like if they get to Roy S. Wood and they decide that the flex or the Mo options, they're not going to do it, they may later say, well, we'll do the GED or, So it's that notion of staying on top of those kids and saying, are you going to pursue the GED? Are you going to pursue something outside of this? And if you are, then that's sort of like taking the homeschool approach to this. And if we don't do that, then we take that as a drop. And if you think about it, I talk about that community of Joplins all the time. We invest 13 years of our teacher resources into these kids. And if you think about it, 13, you think of the number of teachers who have touched that child's life and the amount of money that we've spent, if the ADA is somewhere in the nearing $7,000, that's $91,000 that we pump into every student that comes into our, we want to give them absolutely everything we can. But that's what I talk about when I say, you know, help us continue to do this, you know, to just walk away and you know, and we do everything in our power to grab them, you know, but then if they just walk away and do nothing else, then it's on it. It's not on us, but we take the hit for that. And there's a significant amount of that. And so it's, you know, it's about figuring some of those components out and what things are we, you know, doing to stay on top of that, to reach that. It's as Dr. Saketa can tell you, he was a principal at Joplin High School for 14 years. It's complicated, and when you start trying to suss all of that out and figure out where are the missing components and what things can we do to add to this, you know, it really is complicated. But I do believe that we're on the right track in terms of, I know this, that our literacy program for young kids and our math programs for young kids is set to give kids all they can, that we can academically, and to bring them up and to get them started right, and that progress toward graduation. And I do believe that Joplin Schools, knowing some of that work, is that we are on the right track. And I mean, we just need to, you know, continue that. But I would love to know the answer, you know, how do we, it is about some engagements and clubs and some of that stuff, but there's a number of that there's some, it's a hidden components that we, you know, it would be wonderful if we could unearth.
We'll continue to celebrate the wins. Thank you. For the
Absolutely.
effort, and we'll work on those that.
My 2 minutes turned into Dr. Maloney's.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Shelley, health and dental.
Okay, on the health and dental, this month we spent a little over 2.865 million of our 7.4 budget, which is almost 39%. Last month, the question came up about how many employees were on each type of plan. So if you'll look at the second page there, Eric, I did try to break out each different plan and the class of, or the, if it was individual coverage, family coverage, spouse coverage, children coverage. In November, we had about 613 employees, or approximately 67% in the base plan, 141 in the buy-up, which was 15.3%, 165 in the HSA, which was 18%. And compared to last year, the base plan was 68.9%, and the buy-up was 16.9%, and the HSA was 14.2%. So we did gain 36 employees into the HSA plan, which was kind of our goal with our lower employee cost of only $35 a month for that HSA plan. So that was, I think that was a good, hopefully moving in the right direction to try to get some of our employees who are, it's cost prohibitive, or was cost prohibitive to be in our health insurance plan. We didn't really have any large expenses this month. It's pretty steady amount on everything. We did see a little bit of revenue. We had a most maturity of 180-day investment, which was the interest on that was a little over $9,500. So that was kind of a good, that investment was at 1.93%, and it was able to be reinvested at 4.98%. So that's a good thing. Dental wasn't any significant changes, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay, and on the financial statements, this one, truly, if you go to the condensed balance sheet that we have, it is really similar to a year ago as far as dollar amounts. Revenue was only like $300,000 less than last year at this time. Expenditures were up a little bit, but, we have the Dover Hill project going on. There was a little bit in that, and part of it is the salary increases. But overall, there's really no major changes. Any questions anybody has?
That brings us up to the comments done tonight. Okay. All right, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the regular agenda as presented.
Consent.
Consent, sorry.
Motion by Derek, second by David. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Now we're up for the regular agenda. And Shelley, back to you.
Okay, the audit report, Mandy presented tonight the audit report. I don't know if there's any questions that you may have on that.
I move to approve the 2021-2022 audit report as presented.
Second.
Motion by Riley, second by Derek. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that passes. Thank you.
Good job, Shelley.
Thank you.
Very good job.
On the accounts payable tonight, the bill list is $9,667,081, almost $82. Last year at this time, in 4-week period, and again, we're getting into that time where we are changing the dates of our meetings, so we have different cutoffs on our bill list and everything. So it was almost 8.6 million at that same time last year. I do want to bring to your attention, I don't know if you've noticed, but we did in the comments, the peers and PSRS checks, we have now started submitting those. We're required to by ACH. So those are now showing up as a manual check instead of the normal accounts payable where they always have been. So for the next year, we will have that fluctuation between the two.
I'd make a motion that we pay our bills.
Motion by Derek,
Second.
second by Donnie. Discussion. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that passes. Thank you. All right, Dr. Dickey, course additions.
I believe we have Ms. Hancock here to come talk to you about the course additions, and that report is in your board packets. She's going to share some things with you.
Their organization, that last group on rearranging the chairs and bringing them up and putting it back, that was, if you could let them know, that was awesome. They had a plan and it went well.
It's like synchronized swimming.
Yeah, that was.
Everything just parted and.
Okay, well, this is my first time presenting new courses, and so I will present them in the order that they appear on your screen, and I guess just feel free to jump in with questions as you feel that you need to. Our overall goal in entertaining ideas for new courses is to provide multiple opportunities for freshmen. We have lots of courses, we have lots of channels of courses specialized courses that students can move into. And when you talk about student engagement and being attached to things, I think this comes into play if they get into a specialized channel of courses. They join the band, they get into the fashion program and progress through there. Maybe they end up at Franklin Tech and suddenly they're attached to a program there. This feeds into that idea, but we'll begin with the business proposal, which was social media advertising. They would like to introduce one more marketing type course that is open to freshmen and offer it on a rotating basis with some other 1 semester electives in their department. And so let me just locate that one real quick in my stack and see if there was anything else I wanted to point out about that. Was the last one. Well, I don't have that one with me, but again, it is basically a marketing course that has social media aspects. And again, they want to offer it to 9th graders, so it would be at a basic level. And there are other marketing courses that they could take once they complete that. Hospitality and tourism shows up next on your list. that one needs an asterisk next to it. We have offered that course before through the marketing department, and it can also, Desi says now, be taught through the food and consumer science department. And so it says this program would give students a chance to learn employment skills necessary for any job or career that they plan to work with regarding the public. It would focus on an area not yet covered in the FACS department, so that hospitality feature would be what they would focus on. And students would need to first look at foods 1 and 2, so this is a second year level class. Fundamentals of design, here's another one where you're building in a foundational class open to freshmen. It's kind of a half housing design and half fashion design, and it talks about all different aspects of design. Then we move into something that I think is important in the world of education. We're going to try to make the teaching profession appealing to very young students. Sometimes you do know when you're 14 or 15 years old that you might like to work with kids, and you might have a natural gift for teaching. So we're going to strengthen that path by adding some intro to early childhood and education, which would currently offer a child development class, which fills up very, very quickly. We offer child development 1 and child development 2. There are never any seats available in that. And so we're going to build in intro to early childhood and education below that. And then they would take child development. There are a couple other classes they could take in between. And then you're going to see the next one on the list is Career Pathway to Teaching Profession Level 2. We have a cadet teaching program right now open to seniors where students can work in an elementary school or a middle school, shadowing a teacher. And we'd like to see that, a little more formalized. And of course, if we offer Career Pathway to Teaching Profession Level 1, then cadet teaching would be, or Level 2, then cadet teaching would be Level 1. And we would actually offer Level 1 as a class to prepare them to go into shadow that teacher. So you're just looking at building in some steps in that FACS department where we can filter in some freshmen, give our freshmen a place to go in the sophomore year as well, and just offer many, that's just a very popular department. All of those classes in that department fill up very fast. Foods, fashion, and child development. And
So
then as
in
a
that
side
first
note,
group-
sure.
In that first group that's not the virtual, that's just adding more width to what is already there, right?
Yes, and some of
It's not
this-
anything new.
Some of this is contingent upon the hiring of an additional staff.
Gotcha.
We want to have the courses approved regardless from where they
And then on the virtual, is that our content or is that content that we're contracting out?
So all of the virtual courses that I've put up there, I have students that are with me, they're third years, juniors, and we are very limited. We currently have, I included how many we have on the electives page already. Did you all get that?
30, yeah.
Okay, so we currently have 32 and they have to take 20. Well, that includes all the foreign language, and so they're just running out of things that they're interested in, or they took something, they're like, I don't like that, I don't want to take another one. So as a junior, third year with virtual, these are included. These are already included with our Edgenuity package. And we actually, between myself and Mr. Armstrong, we can be teacher of record for all these courses that I've requested. So our teacher of records.
You teach more.
Well, my name is attached, yes. I do follow all the virtual students, but yes, I added certifications so that we could add courses.
Well, fantastic. No, we've got a description of each one in the advanced packet that we received. So we've looked through them, and maybe I can open it up if there are any questions. Is this pulled from the students, or is this pushed from, hey, these are options that might be interesting, or are students asking for these?
I think we could say a mix of both.
Okay.
Largely pushed by staff that sees opportunities, largely pushed that way.
And ours, we just looked at what was offered for Edgenuity and how it fit in with.
Are there more options for later to add?
There are.
Make a motion, we approve the course list offered.
Second. Motion by Dave, that's clear. Second by Riley. All right, any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you,
your work.
ladies. Appreciate it. Yep. Okay, next up, Dr. Dickey, policy update for first reading.
Okay, this is policy JFE, and we've discussed this in policy committee, and it's the first read to bring a student on board as a board liaison. And if anybody has any questions after reading through that policy in your packet, Dr. Skeda and I are happy to answer them.
I would make a motion to approve this phenomenal idea as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by Derek, second by John. Any discussion?
I would like to say, just from the policy committee perspective, I think that this is really good. I can think of some very impressive young people at Joplin High School who would be, I think, impactful to what we do here. So my hat's off to everybody that's worked on this, and really look forward to having that additional perspective join us in the future.
I agree with that. Yeah, Riley?
I think it's great for maturity, given an opportunity to be a part of what they're in, and so that's the evolution we want to see, so. All
Input
right,
on ideas.
please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Last up, pluses and intelligence.
Plus is hearing the high school, sorry, Dr. Skeda.
No, go ahead.
Hearing the high school, and I know my son has struggled, so I got to see that in working, so it's absolutely phenomenal.
I'd like to say kudos to all the presenters who came out. It's always great to have the teachers and the staff come to present and come here and be visible to us. I like that, having them here.
I'd say plus two is on the graduation rate. I mean, and people say, well, Joplin's lower than the surrounding communities, but they always forget that piece that there's so many other programs that Joplin offers that brings that number down to a degree. And so we always run kind of uphill to that, where other communities might say, well, we're at 95% and you guys are at 90, but they don't have the visibility of all the wonderful programs that this community does offer to all of our students out there. So I think that's a great number on the progression as they've shown over the years.
45 early graduates. That's also
Hated
here.
that, yeah. That's great.
I said it's a plus on that kid that got the perfect score.
That's a very big plus.
That is phenomenal. He's a good kid.
Yeah. See those.
Which you starting a program 2 minutes ago at the high school, so if anybody would like.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
All right, motion by Derek, second by Riley, please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
That motion passes.
I see it.
Good.
Very good.
Hey,